Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with our very first Mattel Jurassic World Chaos Theory figure. As you can see, it is also Epic Evolution, but we've got our Majungasaurus. It is Major the Majungasaurus, and I am beyond excited because I've been looking forward to this wave for quite a little while now, so I'm really happy to finally have all of them here now in my hands, and of course to take a look at them with you guys. As you can see, the figure actually looks really nice, and recently I was kind of questioning whether I like this one or not, because I felt like some of the images that we had seen on Big Bad Toy Store's listing looked a little iffy, but in person I can say it does actually look really, really good. And now I kind of want to get a hold of another one to repaint because it just looks so nice, and I haven't even taken it out of the packaging yet. But you can see the box art looks really cool. We've got Darius down here, the adult version, as well as an Allosaurus kind of lurking right behind him. You've got a beautiful, huge Jurassic logo right there. Again, the Epic Evolution logo, and then a shot there in the back of the dinosaur, as well as, of course, the terrain for our Majungasaurus, its habitat where it might be residing. And then here on the back you've got another shot of the figure, and then down here you can see a basically like a checklist for the wave, showing off all three of the other figures that are in this wave. So let's pop this out of the box and check it out. So here is our Majungasaurus now out of the packaging, and definitely looking really good. Like, overall, I think it actually, especially in the head sculpt, looks fantastic. The thing that I was a little iffy about on the images that I had seen of it was how bulky the body looked. I feel like the body is definitely a little bit bulky, but I actually kind of like that here in person. Definitely a bit more than I liked it on the original images. Still looks a little bit iffy as far as, like, the bulkiness to it, but overall, I think it looks pretty cool. Decent paint application, nothing overly memorable or anything, but you know, it's okay, I guess, for what it is. But the sculpt, of course, is definitely the highlight here, and it looks honestly really quite nice, especially those newer teeth that they've been using. Love the fact that they've upgraded the teeth. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it, and we'll check it out from there. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Majungasaurus, you can see it looks really, really good. Overall, I think they did a great job on the fine detail. The skin texture and everything looks really nice on this. There's definitely quite a bit of variation to the type of skin texture and scale detail that we've got going on. And obviously you can see it's currently positioned with the mouth open, which I definitely want to keep the mouth open for the time being so that we can get a look at the inside of the mouth. The eye is painted with a light green. Unfortunately, we don't have a black pupil for the eye. They've chosen to use the darker green body color for the pupil. If we get nice and close, you can kind of see that. As you can also see, when we do get nice and close, the color kind of changes on my camera, because for some reason this camera hates greens and reds, it seems. When figures are just like fully green or fully red, it just has like a big problem with that. But you can see we've got an area of brown there for the snout, and it transitions quite smoothly back to the green for the rest of the face. That little bump on the top of the head of our Majungasaurus unfortunately doesn't have any paintwork on it. I personally would have liked to have seen some paintwork on it, but it's not the end of the world. Again, the teeth look really good because they are upgraded now with this like new kind of softer material that they're using, although it's not actually that soft. Not compared to some of the other figures that they've had out recently, but they look much better, I think, than the older teeth. Definitely a lot more lifelike and realistic, and, you know, they don't have quite that big, like, bulkiness to them like a lot of Mattel figures had in the past. We can also see the tongue is sculpted out very nicely. We've got a pinkish tone for the inside of the mouth. You've got that pink the entire way through. It also has a nice satin shine, which is good, and overall I think that looks really nice. Up here on the top of the head, you start to see a line of ridges following along the spinal column of our dinosaur. You can also see we have a lighter tone pick up about halfway down through the neck, and that starts to stripe there through the course of the neck. Also, you can see we have a lighter tone here for the underside of the throat, kind of like a light grayish tone, and or like a grayish brown, and that kind of stripes up toward those other stripes as you lead down through the course of the neck. Again, the skin texture does look really nice moving through the neck as well. I think they've done a very good job on the fine detail of the figure, as they always do. And as you can see, we do have an articulated jaw and an articulated neck, but I'm going to go ahead and say that those are probably part of the action feature for the figure, so won't really mess with that quite yet. You can see that we do have very nice small arms for our Majungasaurus, and they are sculpted out pretty nicely. They also have the nails sculpted out, but of course no nail paint. They can articulate forward and back, of course, and come out away from the body, pretty much like your standard Mattel figure usually does. I would prefer to push them back like that. I feel like they definitely look a lot more natural back there. As you move through the body, you can see, again, definitely has a big bulky look to it, big bulky feel overall, and that just kind of makes the Majungasaurus, I think, look maybe even a little more intimidating. There are some osteoderms poking up here and there, especially as you lead up higher into the back. We have more of that kind of striping and patterning moving through. It's like a almost like a light yellowish sort of a tone following along the back there of the dinosaur. You can see the button to activate the action feature, and you can see it kind of like decreases briefly here, but then starts to pick back up again as we lead out toward the tail, but unfortunately then disappears before we actually get too far out into the tail, which is a bummer. I would have liked to have seen that striping effect move the entire way through the course of the dinosaur. As you lead down into the thigh, you can see the muscle definition looks quite nice in the thigh, as well as the calf. You can see some more kind of bumpy osteoderms as you lead down into the thigh. You've also got the kneecap right there in the front of the leg, and then you lead down into the foot sculpt. The foot sculpt pretty much looks like your standard Mattel theropod foot sculpt. You have some scoots running down the toes. The nails have a bit of a satin shine to them, but again, no actual nail paint. You can see the dew claw over there as well. And then you lead back up here toward the tail. You can kind of see like some skin wrinkling slightly right there as you lead out. And then as you lead out, you see the tail comes out and has a nice curve to it. We also have some more ridges following along the tail that pick up about halfway through the course of the tail. Of course, you have a swivel for the tail, which just cracked because I haven't actually moved it yet. And then we have articulation for the legs, which is forward and back. Again, pretty much the usual articulation. Kind of comes out, yeah, it comes out away from the body a little bit, but not too far. And of course, you're not really going to see a whole lot of difference on one side compared to the other, because of course the leg is kind of taking a step forward here, and outside of that, everything is pretty much the same. The tail does curve toward us a little bit here on this side, but the only real difference on this side, of course, would be the positioning of the leg. But again, it looks really nice, and honestly is a lot better here in person than I was expecting it to be. As far as the action feature and sounds go, of course, we just have to move this little area up here. I actually really quite like the movement. Like, the movement is really smooth. For some reason, it almost reminds me of like an old stop-motion dinosaur. It is really smooth. I actually really quite like that. And the noises are pretty fun as well. Also, in case you wanted it, there is the fax app code for you to add the Majungasaurus to your collection if you would like to get this in early before you actually find the figure. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about, I would say, 12 3/4 inches, approaching 13, but not quite, or around 32.5, approaching 33 centimeters. As far as a height goes, about 5 inches or around 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect A Human Being next to our Majungasaurus from Mattel. And you can see it does have a pretty darn nice size to it, but it's pretty much the size range you would expect it to be. Again, these Wild Roar figures are consistently in a similar size range, and to show you that, there is a Mattel Roaravore, I believe, Ceratosaurus next to our Majungasaurus, which you can see. They're pretty much the same size, but for another comparison, there is my repainted Ecrixonatosaurus from Mattel, and you can see that these two are pretty much the exact same size, like very, very similar in pretty much every aspect. And then for one final comparison, even though he's still in the box, here is the old Majungasaurus from Mattel next to the new Majungasaurus from Mattel. And I will say at first, I was thinking I preferred the older version, but honestly, having them both here, especially face-to-face like this, I can definitely say that I believe I prefer the newer one. The older one was definitely more stylized, certainly has a very unique look to it, which makes it really, really fun. But the newer one, I feel like, is definitely a lot closer closer to what the actual animal probably looked like. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Epic Evolution Chaos Theory Wild Roar Majungasaurus is really, really nice. Honestly, it's a great way to start these reviews. I feel like it was probably the species I was most excited about for the newest wave. And again, it's just generally one of my all-time favorite species of dinosaur, which is another reason why I think I was so excited for this one. And it's a relief, honestly, having it here now, because I was a little concerned at first when I had seen the figure, thinking that maybe I wasn't going to like it as much as I was hoping. But in hand, it really is quite a beautiful looking version of a Majungasaurus, so much so that I definitely need to get another one in my hands and get a repaint on it, because I feel like even though the paint apps we have for this are okay, it could look a whole lot better with a, more realistic, or even just generally a more interesting paint job on it. Because the paint job we have here, like I said, it's all right, but it's nothing that's going to be memorable. It's nothing that's really going to stand out. I feel like the paint job on the older Majungasaurus was better than what we see on this one. I kind of wish they would have actually just given this one the same colors as the older one. That would have been pretty neat to have two different Majungasaurus, but looking similar as far as the coloration goes. However, again, it's okay, it just needed more, and especially like you don't have any color running along the underside, you don't have much in the way of coloration moving along the back, especially out there on the tail. It doesn't look terrible by any means, but it certainly could have been better. The overall sculpt, though, I think looks great, especially when it comes to the fine detail. The fine detail is really nicely done. It looks very vibrant, very impressive, honestly almost looking like it's aching for a nice dark wash to highlight all of the detail. That's how good the sculpt and fine detail looks, especially in the thigh. But as you move through the course of the figure, again, the body looked, for some reason, from certain angles, it looks a little bit too beefy for my liking, but also from other angles, I think it looks really, really nice. So that area, to me, is a little bit 50-50, but overall, I think it, as a whole, looks really quite nice, especially the head. The head sculpt is fantastic. The articulation is decent. You don't have a whole lot going on because the head and neck area entirely is part of the action features, so it's not like you can really pose or articulate those areas in a way that you could alter it outside of, pushing the button down to reposition it, which I guess is pretty fun. It helps to pose the figure without worrying about it kind of popping back into the previous position. But the articulation elsewhere through the course of the body is decent. The action feature is fun, works really smoothly, and the sounds are also pretty fun. So as a whole, it is actually a really nice looking Majungasaurus, and as I said, definitely my favorite Majungasaurus to come from Mattel so far. So if you are interested in picking one up for yourself, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on Big Bad Toy Store, because that is where I purchased mine. So make sure you check that link, go grab this Majungasaurus, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.